But isn't it amazing that as we're only into the 4th race of the season, the 2 biggest stories are up there looking like they have 3 players to win this race, and that was Dale Earnhardt Jr. leaving DEI and going to Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, and Joe Gibbs Racing going to Toyota. That's part of your top 3 right now.
Hey, DW.
Yeah, buddy.
You know, I hate to bring this up, but I want people at home to understand you're speaking from experience when you tell this young man he needs to slow down a little bit, because I remember a race at Darlington distinctly that you were told to slow down because you had everybody else covered, and you kept kind of like knocking the wall down, and it eventually cost you the race and the championship.
Yep. No, I told them to shut up and leave me alone. I knew what I was doing.
Yep. And in the end, who knew what they were doing?
Yep.
And that's all I mean, I think people need to understand that you've been there and you have a lot of empathy for what this young man's going through, and he's got his hands full right now, guys.
Well, Jeff, that's where I learned not to beat yourself. That was something that I had to learn. I learned it that day.
You know, I just had mentioned about Greg Biffle having about as quick a car as Kyle Busch in the 18. You saw him just go by Dale Earnhardt Jr., so Greg moves into the 3rd spot.
Toyota, Ford, and then 4 Chevrolets with 22 laps to go.
We've had some cars at the front on and off today, but I guess overall, if you look at this 18 car, he's been there all day, the most consistent of all the front runners.
151 laps he's led, Darrell.
He's been up there most all day at one time or another. Look at him, and look at his hands in there. Do you think he's just cruising?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. He's
just
up. Look at that. And you know those little hands, they got to be worn out, boys.
He even told Steve Addington that about 100 laps ago.
I mean, you got to work.
Look at the right side of Robbie Gordon's car. Never mind the left side. That's clean and pristine. It's the right side he's been rubbing up against that safer barrier all day. Larry, do they have a maximum thickness of the sheet metal on the outside of these cars?
They do. I'm not sure it's quite thick enough for Robbie Gordon's car in that 7, but I think the great thing about this new car, we saw it at the 16 races last year, is that foam behind the right door and the left door. You can get up there and rub the wall, and it's like the right side keeps its shape and doesn't bend in against the tires. We saw it at Darlington especially a lot last year.
Look at the right side of that. That's a mess.
Well, we're going to Darlington
keeps on digging
in a few weeks, and we'll really get to see it work there.
Robbie is 26th, 2 laps back, as Greg Biffle continues to march to the front, trying to spoil Toyota's party here in Atlanta.
Yep. He's nipping away at Tony Stewart, and he's not that far off the pace of Kyle Busch right now.
Hey, DW, we're going short track racing next week.
Bristol. Go there and wrestle with the car. And I'll be driving over there next week in my driving ride car. Honey, sit down, sit down. Won't be going that fast.
The Biff is moving in on Tony Stewart.
The one thing Kyle Busch, I think he better hope that does not happen is that we get another caution, because if that 16 car, if they have a good solid stop like last time, those guys are going to be right in the hunt as he's all over the back of Tony Stewart in the 20. 17 to go next time at the line.
Well, and the 17 car really is not that far back either. He's in A spot, so if we had a caution, there's some players, I believe.
Now, while we've been watching these battles, Clint Boyer, who led this race for quite a bit, just recently went by Jeff Gordon to get back in the top 5.
Boy, the Biff just climbed the hill and almost slapped the wall. How is Biffle's car, Dick?
Well, it's pretty decent, Mike, but boy, they sure rolled the dice today in terms of what they did for a setup. The longest run that they had in practice was just 10 laps, even though they knew they were going to have long runs today. So they sort of interpolated from that, used their experience on this racetrack, guessed at what the weather was going to be, adjusted the car all day long. The crew has been simply brilliant on pit road. I'm telling you, that last stop, when they picked up 5 positions toward the end of the race, deserves a huge attaboy. And so the crew's doing his job, Biffle's doing his job. They did the job in the garage. They're 3rd and looking for more.
Second place battle right here.
And I just think it shows the depth again and how good these Roush cars all are. The Roush Fenway cars. I mean,
but you got him right here now.
You got the 16 here just going into 2nd place.
Clear, 2 back.
Could have very easily have been the 99 was out front pulling away. So I think it just shows how good Roush Fenway stuff is right now.
That's it, bud. Go to work. 15 to go.
That Greg Biffle will finally clear Kyle Busch. And the thing about it, Greg Biffle racing Tony Stewart that hard, his lap was still just as quick as Kyle Busch. We've got 15 to go. You can see a lot of jubilation by that crew as Biffle just drives away from Stewart now.
Greg Biffle is 3 seconds behind Kyle Busch.
Isn't this that racetrack where we had those really close finishes?
And this is where they normally start taking shape.
And in this, kind of like that point in the race where you say, well, he can't catch him.
Right.
And then all of a sudden.
Well, we'll see. Kyle Busch is trying to do something that has not been done in NASCAR since 1954. Drive a foreign nameplate car into victory lane. That is band leader Paul Whiteman's Jaguar. Paul was a buddy of Big Bill France, and that's Al Keller in an International 100 at Linden, New Jersey. That is the last foreign make to drive into victory lane in what is now the Sprint Cup Series.
Well, let's see what the stopwatch tells us. Greg Biffle beat him by about 1/10.5 the last time.
Well, that should put him dead even at the finish line if that continues.
Well, that time they leveled out.
Yeah.
We've got 13 laps to go. The thing about it, I think Kyle Busch is going to start catching the tail end of the field, though. Some lap cars back there.
Lap cars could make a difference, but I do notice Greg's lap times are a little erratic, and I tell you why. He drives in a little too hard, car goes up the hill with him. He's really got to try to temper it a little bit here and not overdrive the car. Tony Stewart's come back on him now, and so I think that's the other thing that's going to slow Greg down, having to deal with Tony Stewart.
Well, if Stewart can harass Biffle, that's a good thing for Stewart's teammate.
Yeah, because now Kyle Busch, the last 2 laps, he's beat Greg Biffle by 0.2 of a second a lap. He's pulled out to 3 1/4 seconds. 12 laps to go.
I think the old
Speed
Biff.
up a little bit right there, about 3 backs. Back your corners up a little bit.
Back the
What's on
corners
bottom
up.
here?
That's exactly right. I think the old Biff overdrives the corner every now and then and loses a lot of time.
The other thing Kyle Busch is trying to do is become Atlanta's youngest ever Sprint Cup race winner. Jeff Gordon won here at the age of 23 years and 7 months. Kyle Busch won't turn 23 until May.
I don't think there's anybody so far out of our first 4 races that has driven harder, put in more effort, and put on a better show than this cat right here in this 18 car. He has been fantastic and fun to watch.
I don't think anybody would challenge you on that statement, Darrell.
They don't give these things away. You don't ever deserve to win one until you win it, but he has worked hard enough and done a good enough job. He deserves to win this race.
There's the interval, 1st to 2nd, with Biffle still 3 seconds back with 10 to go.
Protect your spot.
Now with 10 laps to go, Jeff Gordon actually just got back by Clint Boyer. He's back in the 5th position in the 24 car.